live on a Wednesday. It's the 3rd of December. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. It's week 14 of this NFL regular season. And of course, this closing 5-week stretch commences this weekend, Sarah. In Baltimore, the Steelers will come to town. And my goodness, before we even set the table, take a look. It's not like you needed any more information on this as it is. It's Ravens Steelers. But as it relates to the AFC North, as it relates to playoff leverage, look at what Aaron Schatz has to say. This game on Sunday has more playoff leverage, more playoff implications than any game so far this season. And it's based on his simulation. They're simulators. It's all things analytics. It's all things numbers. With a Ravens win, Sarah, their playoff leverage skyrockets to 70%. Steelers plummets to 23%. If Pittsburgh pulls off the upset in Baltimore, their playoff chances, their playoff leverage, to use Aaron's terms, skyrockets to 75%, while the Ravens plummet to 21%. So needless to say, a lot is on the line coming up this weekend, and we've got a lot coming up over the course of the next hour. Brooke Pryor from ESPN, the Steelers perspective, tomorrow, 12:30, our game preview, our traditional segment. Looking forward to that. Jeff Zaribek, Ravens insider, had some interesting pushback on some of the sensitivities, Sarah, surrounding Lamar Jackson and Tavius Robinson and Ardarius Washington. Being that those players, respectively, are back to practice, we're going to kind of try to ask ourselves how quickly and if at all they will be a help to the Ravens defense. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. I thought you were going to ask me how I was doing. And then I was going to ask, well, how are you doing?
Well,
because what people don't know is that when you called for a pre-show call, you were letting me know about how you had FOMO for, the northern East Coast weather and Christmas and this and that. And then I didn't see your face, and now I see it. We're back to, as the chat calls, Bobby Bangs. We got the beard growing out. Feels like you're really depressed, missing out on the Christmas spirit and snow of the East Coast.
I am. It cracks me up, the chat, for starters. As you already noted, Bobby Bangs is alive and well. And yes, for the audio-only audience, I decided to bring the bangs down, baby, before I go in for a haircut in the next day or so. And while Sarah looks festive in her red, I'm sitting over here in whatever color this is, green-ish. And while I will be home in upstate New York for a week leading up to Christmas, it does feel a little strange for the first time ever in the holiday season being in 80 degrees. But hey, that shouldn't be an area of complaint, so I won't.
Hey, in March, I'll be jealous of you. We'll just flip positions come March. It'll still be snowing here in Columbus, and you'll be living it up in Florida with all the sun and the ocean and all that comes with it. So,
and what's funny about it, I wonder if March will hit the same for me as it has in the past, because as you know, that's typically the month that I try to depart and escape, the Northeast for the month and work remotely. But anyway, we'll get there when we get there. We got a game to talk about, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. This game will be at M&T Bank Stadium. The Ravens opened up as 6-point favorites, Sarah. And of course, both of these teams sit at 6-6. And I think as we set the table, there's a lot of similarities between these two teams right now. And they need a win. Both of these teams need a win. Only one of them is going to come out victorious.
That's what's so funny is that I'll hear people say, man, if the Ravens can't get up for this one where they're 6-6 and the AFC North is on the line, and if Lamar Jackson doesn't bounce back, like if they, with all that is on the line, if they can't get up for this, then what can they get up for? And yet the exact same thing could be said to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, you're 6-6. The AFC North is on the line. You had the lead. It's been evaporated. And so if you can't get up for this, Mike Tomlin and company, Aaron Rodgers and everybody else, if you can't get up for this, then you don't deserve to be there. I mean, that is the storyline on both sides. I mean, you're just showing this with the playoff chances. It's completely flipped to basically go 75-25 in terms of playoff chances for each of these teams. Like, you can't say that their season is over for the person that loses, but my goodness, what a hole they'll put themselves into. And speaking of holes that people have put themselves into, another very similar narrative that's going on for both teams is the job security for the head coaches. Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, John Harbaugh of the Baltimore Ravens, two of the most active tenured coaches in the NFL today, have people asking, are these guys the men for their respective jobs going forward if they continue to underperform. And basically, it's the same standard for each two. Both fan bases are like, yeah, okay, well, even if you win the AFC North and advance to the playoffs, don't think that you're escaping scrutiny. Don't think that your job is suddenly completely saved. Now, their owners may think differently, but the fan bases and the media covering them believe that both of these men, even if they make the playoffs, if you're like one and done, if you're getting run out of buildings in the playoffs, in the eyes of the two cities, that's not enough. So let's start with John Harbaugh. Nick Wright, of all people, bringing this up as we head into this game. I know how Baltimore fans feel about Nick Wright, but in this instance, they may feel a little bit uncomfortable because there's a lot of fans that agree with what Nick said yesterday on First Things First.
Roster's the roster, and Lamar's obviously the Ravens' hope is their quarterback for the next 10 years, God willing. Which leads us to this. John Harbaugh should be coaching for his job the rest of the year.
I agree.
Wow.
I actually felt that way for this whole season.
And to where, like, obviously, if they miss the playoffs, I think that, and you can say, what do I feel the same way about Andy because they missed the playoffs? The answer is no, because there's such a different track record, and it's not. No, I'm trying to. They're both 6-6. Both have Hall of Fame quarterbacks in their prime, but one team it has felt like constantly underachieved, right? And that. But even if, to your point, Brew, they make the playoffs, but by default, and then get clocked.
Right.
And if they look like this in the playoffs and they lose, in the wild card round to Buffalo or whomever they would play in the 4-5 matchup, I just don't know how Baltimore can run it back again.
I agree.
Like, Lamar was hurt a couple years, fine, that's why. But then you were the 1 seed, you lose the AFC title game. Last year, you can't get past Buffalo. If this year you miss the playoffs, you're losing round 1, just go backwards 3.
He didn't even bring up 2019 when they were the 1 seed and one and done in the divisional round. So, Bobby, Baltimore fans like to call him Nick wrong, but would you say he is right this time around?
I do, with an R, not a WR. He's right. Nick Wright is right. I think so. Gosh, what is it? Over a month now since we really last had this conversation about John Harbaugh's job security when they were staring at 1-5 in the face. And they successfully have dug themselves out of that, much of which has to do with this defensive turnaround that dates all the way back to week 5, week 6, somewhere around there. And certainly, even though Lamar has played below his standard for weeks running now, they're a better team and they have a better chance to win when he's out on the football field. We all know that. But we've been here before. And to your point a minute ago, winning the AFC North, which would be historic, by the way, no other team has ripped off 3 straight consecutive seasons winning that title. I'm not saying that's insignificant, but it's insufficient for what the Ravens want to do, what they have to do, and what they've yet to do in the Lamar era. And we'll talk about the bites of the apple that John's gotten. We'll talk about everything that's led to some of their deficiencies and their weaknesses this year. But ultimately, I think a change would be a welcome sight should they continue to, what did he just describe it as? Underachieve. I think that's probably pretty fair in terms of their January play in the postseason since Lamar's been in Baltimore. So, Lamar's not going anywhere barring something crazy and unpredictable. But the coach, should he not get to the mountaintop this year, I do believe that that makes Nick right in terms of, what's at stake the next 5 weeks. And that could very well, who knows if it's in Steve Bisciotti's eyes, but in my eyes, I think that's a very fair assessment.
Yeah, we haven't heard from Steve Bisciotti in years, really. Sometimes he,
although sorry to interrupt, he did the Ravens Productions interview sit down over the.
That's what I was about to say. Like, he's done some one-offs here and there, especially with the team. But the team obviously controls those questions. He's not given a real press conference. Any press conference in years. He's done some one-offs, but in those one-offs, they can control a little bit more about what's being asked and what's being said. So I have no clue what Steve Bisciotti's thinking. I do know from years past that Steve Bisciotti has a lot of respect and high regard for John Harbaugh. He likes how much he fights. He likes how he's what Steve Bisciotti told me is that he's Harbaugh's both what was the word? Hungry and humble, something like that. And so I know that Steve Bisciotti likes him, but I also know that Steve Bisciotti's a results-based guy too. So what's happening here? What are we getting the results that we want? And maybe for him, he's getting enough results. But as Nick just pointed out, in 2023, you are the number 1 seed. You're at home for the AFC Championship game. And that game for sure was on coaching. That loss was on coaching. That doesn't mean that players were perfect, but you went in and you didn't even have your identity. And in 2019, you're taking the league by storm. You're 14-2, and then you're 1 and done to the Titans in the divisional round. And then we talk about last year with the Bills, just didn't even, again, play up to the Ravens standard. They were constantly shooting themselves in the foot. And so I like John Harbaugh. I have no doubt that he would coach again if the Ravens were to move on from him. I like him a lot. But the same logic that I've used with him in saying that, it might be time is the same logic they're using in Pittsburgh also. Mike Tomlin, also a Hall of Fame coach. John Harbaugh, a Hall of Fame coach. That what happens this offseason doesn't impact that. They're both probably going to the Hall of Fame. Another Super Bowl would certainly lock that up, but they're both probably going. This is not a commentary on whether they are good coaches. They are. But just after enough time, it just gets to the point that it's like we keep going down this road. And by the way, if either one of them are let go, but let's talk specifically about the Ravens, if John Harbaugh's let go, there's a possibility things could get worse. There's that possibility. But there's also a possibility that it could get better. What we do know is that with all these bites of the apple, we're staying the same. You do know that. And so there's no doubt in my mind that John Harbaugh would go on and have a successful coaching career if he wanted to. But I was rubbed the wrong way from the beginning of the year when he didn't like the word Super Bowl or bust. That is the expectation. That is it. That's the expectation based off the fact that you have a 2-time MVP. And you can obviously point out that Lamar's been injured. That's all fair. But now you have December. And based off of the way he looked against the Bengals and a 10-day rest period, I hope that he's more healthy. And December's the time. Lamar Jackson has an opportunity to turn things around in December. John Harbaugh has an opportunity to turn things around in December. It has to happen. And then it has to continue into the playoffs. Here is one difference, though, that I will say between John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. You don't hear former players say that it's time for John Harbaugh. We had Terrell Suggs on the show a month or so ago. And he had John Harbaugh's back. We've had Jimmy Smith on. He has John Harbaugh's back. You don't hear these franchise icon players saying, oh, it's time. But in Pittsburgh, you do have that with James Harrison and Ben Roethlisberger. Here they are on their respective podcasts.
Steelers historically don't move on from coaches. But I think it's time that history be made. I'm going to be a Steeler fan for life, bro. But I like to be a Steeler fan that believes we can win a game and doesn't just hope we can win a game. And right now, I done lost hope.
It's been talked about around here a lot. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's a clean house time. Maybe it is. Maybe it's time. And I like Coach Tomlin. I have a lot of respect for Coach Tomlin. But maybe it's best for him too. Sure. Maybe a fresh start for him is what's best.
So there you go. Franchise iconic players saying it might be time in Pittsburgh, not happening in Baltimore thus far. That could always change, but your thoughts on these two guys?
Yeah, you call them one of the longest tenured head coaches respectively, right? They are 1-2. Mike Tomlin took over in Pittsburgh for Bill Cowher in 2007. The following year, John Harbaugh took over for Brian Billick in 2008. That is unheard of in today's modern sports world. Shelf life is not something that comes with modern day head coaching job security, particularly at the collegiate level, as we've seen, and even at the professional level. So at some point, and again, you just said it too, unless there have been players that don't have the stature of the James Harrisons, the Ben Roethlisbergers, so on and so forth, I don't know if I know of any true, whether it's a Hall of Famer or a standout household name past Raven, who've come out and spoken like that, what you just heard right there. Now, I will say, Sarah, I listened to the Ben Roethlisberger podcast. We're going to have a snippet in just a second here in full. It was a conversation. I'm not saying that clip was taken out of context whatsoever. I'm just saying it came up very naturally, and it was a very fair way of bringing it up, I think, in Ben's case, and he even said it there himself. He's a huge fan of Tom, and I think most people are. Granted, you want to know the difference. We keep talking about, the comparables between the two coaches. One big difference is that John has won playoff games since 2016, and that's the last time that Mike Tomlin has. That's a big, look, is there anything to show for it? Is there an AFC title to show for it? No. Are there a ton of playoff wins to show for it? No. Are there AFC North title crowns to show for it? Yes, including the last two and perhaps 3 straight for the first time in this division's history. And obviously there's a slew of regular season wins to show for it as well. So that is a difference there. And I wonder, Sarah, if that's led the likes of a James Harrison to speak so matter-of-factly, because this team is starving for not only postseason relevance, but postseason wins.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say the reason why, it's a factor to point this out, right? That big stature players are saying it's time for one, and big stature players for the other city is not saying it. The reason why I make that note is because when Steve Bisciotti makes these calculations, he's going to ask around and get the pulse of different people. He'll start with Eric DeCosta. He'll start, with some of those guys. He'll start with Lamar Jackson. He'll start with some of the players, but he'll also talk to some respected former players and just get an idea of what's the pulse of the team. Now, Steve Bisciotti could still make a decision independently. I keep my same standard. This year was a Super Bowl or bust year. I stand by that. There might be, maybe there's a scenario where they're in the AFC North the AFC Championship game, and it clear as day is just not John Harbaugh's fault. Maybe there's a scenario there, but generally speaking, I'm Super Bowl or bust. To me, that's it. Otherwise, get somebody else in here that gets a bite of the apple. That's my standard. But when Steve Bisciotti makes these decisions and factors in different things, he will ask around, and he's going to want to know the pulse of both the players inside the locker room, but also the legends who have been around and what they're hearing and what they're seeing.
Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have had to answer a fair amount of questions since they were boat raced in an inability to stop the run in January of last year in the wild card round, Sarah, where the Ravens just absolutely dominated that game in multiple facets en route to the divisional round, where obviously their season fell short to the Buffalo Bills. But Mike Tomlin was asked this earlier in the week.
You talk openly about building your team in the offseason to deal with the AFC North a lot of times. How did what happened at the end of last season in Baltimore impact the way you went about constructing this team this year?
The acquisition of bigs, you saw our emphasis in the draft around big people, fortifying our depth in that area. And certainly it's been required. We've certainly had some attrition in that area. Dean Lowry, Loudermilk, and Derek Harmon has missed a couple of stretches. And so that depth with young people like YA and O and others, man, is significant. You can't run out of bigs. If you run out of bigs in AFC North ball, you're running on the beach, certainly.
If you run out of bigs in AFC North ball, you're running on the beach. I listened to every minute, every second of Mike Tomlin's press conference yesterday. I can't wait to have Brooke on because she's often on the other end, right, of these answers. She's asking the questions as part of the Pittsburgh beat there. But he mentioned Derek Harmon, and this happened live yesterday, but just in case you missed it, he is a very talented rookie and a run stopper specialist, as you heard there from Tomlin, who's already missed games this year. That will continue. This stretch will continue according to Mike Tomlin, Sarah, this upcoming weekend. And it's relevant because this is a Steelers team reeling from a run defense standpoint, having allowed 249 rushing yards on them to the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills did not have their starting tackles. Now, look, I get it. Something's got to give oftentimes in this league. It's Ravens Steelers. None of really what happened last week matters. I get it when you look at the history of this rivalry, but that is relevant going into Sunday.
Yes, it is. And like, it's funny because like if you run out of bigs, then like you said, he said you're on the beach, you're running on the beach. But both of these teams have lost bigs. Like with Harmon out, obviously Matabike was lost at the beginning of the season. There's not a lot of bite in the Ravens offensive line. The Steelers defense just has not been in what it has been in years past. And so it's like both these teams might be running the beach because I just don't know how many bigs they really got going on. Luckily, Travis Jones is stepping up and whatnot, but as we've talked about at the interior guard position, let's see if Emory Jones can continue to get more snaps, because as we showed it with the film study yesterday, he would be, if he could progress, that would be a big improvement for the Ravens. Oh, let him progress so they can at least have one side of the offensive line that they can feel solid about.
Ben Roethlisberger, former Steelers quarterback, who's now in the media business to a degree, he weighed in on this matchup coming up on Sunday.
Nervous is what we just saw this last week with Buffalo is the running game, and they have Derrick Henry.
Jeez.
They have Lamar Jackson who can run the ball. So is Pittsburgh going to go into this game and say, okay, that's not happening?
Yeah.
Lamar, beat us with your arm. We're going to put 9 guys in the box. We are going to make sure that you do not run for 100 yards, or I don't have to put a fake number on it, because if they run for 110 and you win, who cares? But go into saying, no, Lamar has to beat us with his arm. It has to. That is our mindset. We are shutting down the run. And I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but in my opinion, that's what I would do. Is I'd say, hey, listen, we got to go. We got to try and do whatever we can to make this team as one-dimensional as possible and make that one dimension beat us. And it's literally just taking Derrick Henry out of the game. Like, take the run game out, and just, if Lamar beats you with his arms and legs, then so be it.
Big Ben weighing in. What are your thoughts? Is that the first time you heard those?
It's the first time. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Based off the film that Lamar, we just went over how off target Lamar's been over the last 4 games. We've always scoffed when people are like, oh, just take away the run. It's like, okay, cool, bet. And then in 2023 and 2024, Lamar beat you with his arm. Like, cover 0, no problem. Blitz, no problem. Just rushing 4, no problem. Like, he could do anything the last 2 years, but off of the last 4 weeks, he's been off target. I keep projecting that he's going to turn it around. But to me, how could they come into the game with any other defensive game plan? Like, stop the run and let's hope that Lamar Jackson's bad streak continues. Why wouldn't they do that? So I don't know what he's really nervous about with that.
Maybe my interpretation of that was, oh no, like, we will refuse going into this game, coming off the embarrassment that was Sunday, which everybody saw because it was in the 4:00 window. We will refuse to get beat by the run, meaning we're going to overcompensate potentially, and then Lamar's going to dice us through the air, which, to your point, if he's been watching, has not been the case since he returned, at least not the full game sample sizes that we're accustomed to seeing from Lamar. So, yeah, I hear you there. He says he's nervous at the top. I think there's plenty of people on the other side that'll be nervous just because it is Ravens Steelers. And as we discussed at the top of this means this means everything for the playoffs. And as we both know, Sarah, that the best path to the playoffs for Baltimore, the clearest path, is winning the AFC North. Simply put.
Yeah, but what I would be nervous about if I were Big Ben is Derek Harmon missing. Like, I want to see the Ravens. I want to see the Ravens just run it up the gut, and then counter with Keaton out on the edges to stretch the field horizontally. Obviously, switch it up sometimes so you're not so predictable. reintroduce the read option, and hopefully Lamar will read it better than he did last week. We went over a film of how he missed a read last week with Derrick Henry. Probably would have had a house call, but he didn't read the shoulders of the defensive end correctly, kept the ball and only got a couple yards. And so that is why the Steelers couldn't beat the Ravens the last 2 times. Like, we went over the film. TJ Watt was lost. He didn't know if he should take Lamar or he should take Derrick Henry. And it happened 2 games in a row. Like, they played each other, I think, week 17 and then in the wild card round or something like that. It wasn't that. There wasn't like several games in between. 2 games in a row, that Raven strategy, they couldn't get it solved. And now Derek Harmon's out. Mike Tomlin admitted part of the reason why they went out to get Mike Harmon is because they couldn't stop the Ravens running. Well, now he's not there. So Todd Monken better not abandon Derrick Henry in the run game this time. Keep pounding away without Derek or Harmon in the middle.
His players better hold on to the football. If you cough up the football on AFC North play, as we saw on Thursday night, Thanksgiving, you're probably going to have it 5 times, no less. But, man, these games so often, how often do they come down to, and I know most do, but when it comes to Ravens Steelers, like, these will ultimately decide games. Special teams, ball security, both have to be absolutely at the forefront of your mindset going into them.
Just real quick, do you have any thoughts? Like, Emory Jones played series number 2, series number 3, and series number 10. I'm hoping we can at least get to this week what was happening with what they used last year, which was 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off, like an even split. I'd like to see Emory Jones get a lot more snaps than on just 3 different series, because that would also be a key. That would also be a key to getting the run game going. Because if he can improve, we already know what Voorhees has done. So hopefully he can improve and he gets more snaps and you can at least run to the left side.
Yeah, as Jason, eloquently broke down for us yesterday, it's a small sample size. Mm-hmm. And he gave him a B, I think, because it was his because it was his NFL debut.
And he was backed up on the 2 or something, wherever they were when he first came in.
They were way backed up in their own territory for one of those drives right out of the gate. So, yeah, in one breath, I'm like processing what you said. Like in one breath, you want to see him have his workload increased, but you also know that it is Ravens Steelers and all that's going to come perhaps with a gradual process attached to it. But I'm with you. I'd like to see him earn more. I mean, it's not Jason thought that he earned more. I know you and I probably feel like he earned more than 16 total snaps, which is what he logged in his NFL debut. Richard is comparing. He's in the comparison game here between the Ravens and Steelers. And he says, one coach has a quarterback, another does not, which is absolutely a part of the equation here for 5 years running now that Ben Roethlisberger's been. Has it been 5 years already? It's somewhere around that number that Ben Roethlisberger's been retired. He also says Tomlin is Harbaugh's daddy. Tomlin had an old Big Ben, 40-year-old Rodgers, and a reindeer at quarterback by the name of Mason Rudolph. I think that's probably where you're going with that, Richard.
His last game was January 16th, 2022.
Okay, not quite 5 yet.
3. Yeah.
Not quite 5. Live 95 is wants to tell you about the offensive line here, I think.
Yeah, he says ain't no running up the gut this season, Sarah. That's why we're talking about Emory Jones and
bouncing Keaton to the outside.
and bouncing Keaton to the outside, using Pat Ricard, all those types of things. But and again, just remembering that they are missing their number 1 run stuffer.
Dream says Tomlin can win without a Superman at quarterback. Harbs can't. I'm willing to say Tomlin would have won a Super Bowl with Lamar by now. Dark Thunder 35 is here for you.
What if these 2 coaches just switch spots? Wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be insane.
That would be insane. Okay, Dark says Harbaugh is in Tomlin's Killer B era, where they both only have 1 AFC title appearance with great rosters. Both won with veteran rosters early and have struggled since.
All right. No read today. So over 1,500 concurrents and counting here on this Wednesday. Appreciate you guys for being with us today. If you could like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member or a gift-giving membership. And we will have our new winter line drop on the apparel line, thevaultpod.com/shop pretty soon here. So looking forward to having Carly roll all that out for us, Sarah. There'll be just classic winter gear that I think you guys will want to check out. So we'll let you know when that's been updated. But for right now, you can see in the pinned comment, we do have that direct link to our merch line. And Richard says, Sarah, say it louder. Bring in Tomlin. You think that's going to solve everything overnight, Richard?
I was joking because wouldn't it just be a bizarro world? Wouldn't that be, that'd be just the craziest storyline. Craziest that they both move on and they're like, Tomlin, come over here. And she's like, yeah, I'm Harbaugh, come over here.
That would be, I don't even know how to process that because it ain't happening. Okay. Appreciate you guys. We'll get to more super chats as they come in. Last night on the Collective, the Athletics, Jeff Zrebiec, Cole Jackson, and I met up for our weekly Tuesday evening show, Sarah. And as you do on Wednesday mornings, I think you caught some of it just to get yourself caught up on what was discussed. And something stood out to you as it relates to the Lamar Jackson sensitivity as he's sort of in probably the most significant rut, albeit just a month, but a month-long rut at that, of his 8-year career.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because we've lived with Lamar Jackson through some crazy criticism of him going all the way back to college and the combine. Like we just had to listen that for years that he wasn't a quarterback. And he's won MVP with 2 completely different styles in the way he did it. And so like because he's been so disrespected, sometimes some fair criticism is met with too much sensitivity, right? But then part of that happens because once it's fair to criticize Lamar, which has happened in the last 4 weeks, it's fair. I mean, he clearly didn't play well against the Bengals, hasn't played, and there's the injury. We know we've gone through this a million times. There's context and whatnot. But we are in a stage, especially after that Bengals game, that says, you know what, we don't have to be so sensitive that we can't criticize Lamar Jackson. That being said, is once that window opens, then those on the edges start bringing in crazy criticism again. And so then it becomes like protect him against the crazy criticism, but also while trying to like leave space for legitimate criticism. So what I wanted to do was have 2 different takes on Lamar. Yes, the first one is from Jeff Zrebiec from your guys' show last night. And the second one is everybody's favorite, Emmanuel Acho, which I feel like is unfair criticism. So I wanted to do it back to back of like just the times we're living in, of like how it's just like how you can talk about Lamar and can't. But I thought Jeffers Frere, he's been in here already today. Dreams has left us a couple super chats. He left a super chat on your guys' show last night. And Jeff wanted to push back against Dreams. Dreams, all love, buddy. But this is what
you
Jeff
set
had
the table for today. Queon, let's go.
Yeah, here we go. Thanks, Queon. Here we go.
I want to push back on that a little. Every star quarterback max 13.
Hold on. I should say really quick, earlier in the show, Jeff said that Lamar in the past has masked some of the weaknesses and deficiencies of the team. And Dreams put up a super chat that said it's unfair to Lamar to ask him to mask some of the weaknesses of the team. So let's get back to that.
I want to push back on that a little. Every star quarterback masks their team's weaknesses. That's what star quarterbacks do. That's why you're getting paid $50 million. You can't pay everybody. This is a salary cap year. Are we saying the Chiefs haven't had weaknesses during the Pat Mahomes era? Every time we see that team, he's masking weaknesses and finding a way until finally this year, it appears he's struggling to do that. Josh Allen, his weapons in the past, are we saying Josh Allen hasn't masked Bill's weaknesses? Like, I agree. It's not fair to put it all on Lamar. There's fundamental problems with not improving the offensive line enough, not playing well enough, this losing their identity. But every star quarterback masks his team's weaknesses. There's no perfect roster. You need your star quarterback, your face of the franchise, to play like a star if you're going to have the Super Bowl season. And so I agree in a sense to that question. but that is the life of a franchise quarterback who's making $50 million a year. They're expected to mask some of the team's weaknesses.
He said that's the life of a franchise quarterback that makes $50 million per year. What was your reaction when you heard that last night?
Fair. Just like Nick at the top of the show, as it relates to John Harbaugh's job security and the fact that he's fighting for his job, maybe not in the owner's eyes, but in a lot of our eyes for the next 5 weeks. I think it's fair for Lamar to shoulder a hefty level of that blame because he is the franchise guy. And while all that is true, he's also masked significant deficiencies, particularly early on in his career with the lack of weapons, pass catchers outside of tight ends around him at his disposal. And so both things can be true.
Mm-hmm.
And I also understand why the Lamar Jackson sensitivity exists too, which I think you just did a good job of explaining. This is deep-seated stuff. This goes all the way back to pre-Louisville and at Louisville. Like he is a quarterback. He has built himself into being a successful, even transcendent 2-time, should have been 3-time, and maybe it will be one day, MVP quarterback for one of the most storied franchise in the league. This is the type of stuff that he can shoulder this because he is capable of doing it. And I don't think it's out of bounds or out of line to acknowledge it. I commend Jeff for doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of, I see it on both sides of the ball too. Like Kyle Hamilton got paid big money and he's masking a lot of the deficiencies on defense.
He's playing every position. That's masking, right?
Yes. So Kyle Hamilton is the one doing it on one side of the ball. And listen, TJ Watt did it years for Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger did it for years in Pittsburgh, and Lamar Jackson has done that for years in Baltimore. He has. And for the first time, especially over the last 4 weeks, we haven't seen it. And so, again, you always want to bring in injuries. You want to put in the context. You want to bring in the offensive line. And by the way, two things can be true here at once also. Just because the team does ask that the highest paid players mask some deficiencies around them, you also can't just be like, all right, Lamar, save us. We're not doing anything else. And I think that's what the two sides kind of fight against. Is it like what Jeff said? Of course it's fair to ask it. And it's not Lamar only. It's any quarterback that's paid $50 million a year, right? Now, the Ravens, that doesn't take away from the fact that the Ravens blew it when he was on his rookie contract. They did. They should have had a Super Bowl during his rookie contract. They certainly should have. Saying today that Lamar should mask some deficiencies doesn't change the reality that they blew it. That they would have had more money then. You could have put a more complete team around him, and they didn't. And it's also true that if you're going to save money somewhere, perhaps it shouldn't be the offensive line that's protecting the face of your franchise. So saying this doesn't take away from that either. But yes, it is okay to expect somebody to mask the deficiencies. And I don't care what side of the ball you are on. I don't care what position you play. When you're paid as one of the highest in the league, that's the life. That's the life. That's what you're taking on when you sign that contract.
That rookie window, I think, can be best summarized with this sentence. They didn't maximize the moment, nor did they allocate the resources properly when it came to team building. And for those two reasons, they have nothing to show for it other than hardware for Lamar himself and a couple playoff wins. That's it.
Yeah. And by the way, you've asked me, and some of the people in the chat have asked me, like, I'll say, I think Lamar's going to turn it around. I feel like if he's 90+% healthy, I think he will go back to masking some of the issues. And that's why people say, like, Sarah, what gives you the confidence? Because look at the team around him. And it's because of when he is healthy, the ripple effects it has offense wide and then actually team wide, because then you're not putting your defense back out there in terrible situations with 5 turnovers or 3 and outs or things like that. Like, it has ripple effects team wide. So people will say, well, Sarah, even if Lamar's healthy again, what gives you the confidence? It's this. It's that when healthy, he does mask things. And so again, I don't know that health was totally the issue against the Bengals, but that was more an aberration to me compared to what I've seen elsewhere. That's why I do have more confidence in the team if he's healthy. Now, To me,
I'm with you, and I'll just say in response to that, while I acknowledge that, and I totally agree to a degree, why I'm more neutral is the closing 5 weeks degree of difficulty schedule wise. And so that's where I think that's just where there's not a huge disagreement there. There's just slight little separation in the visual for what's to come. What did Acho have to say on this topic?
And it is a tougher schedule, but they should absolutely be able to beat the Steelers and the Bengals. And then you can take New England in Green Bay as they come. But again, division games are tough. I know. But okay, here's what I don't think is fair is here we are in a situation where it's like, yes, we can call out that Lamar Jackson has been inaccurate the last 4 weeks. He's been hesitant to run, yada, yada, yada. We've already gone through it. We don't need to do it again. But then as soon as that door is little cracked open, Lamar's going through a 4-week rut with these injuries. Then all of a sudden, the people on the edges who have always been critical of Lamar just take a giant leap and take it to a whole other level. That is unfair. And it's why people do continue to stick up for Lamar, because this type of stuff isn't right. Like, he has a 4-game bad stretch with injuries, and now this is your takeaway, Emmanuel Acho.
At what point do we have to question, are number one receivers not number one receivers because of Lamar?
He's ever had a number one receiver? I'll let you tell me.
I'm just saying.
Has he ever had one?
He's had a first-round pick, Hollywood Brown.
Oh, wait, let me hold up. Has he ever? Because before you go on this, because you're good at this, you're great at it, actually. All right, name me a number one receiver. I'll wait.
They've played with Lamar.
Hold up.
Teddy, you can't do this. Think about it.
I'm doing it right now.
Hollywood Brown was a first-round pick.
Was he a number one?
I don't know, because he wasn't with Lamar.
He's ever number one.
But Zay Flowers was a first-round pick.
Is he a number one?
Well, I don't know, because of Lamar. Rashad Bateman was a first-round pick.
Is he a number one?
I don't know, because of Lamar.
That's bull crap. That's bull crap. Tell me a team that can go be a number one. I'll wait. I'm waiting. I'm still waiting.
I don't know.
I'm waiting even longer. You want to tell me? Tell me a place where they can go be a number one today.
Would you have said
maybe the Packers? Maybe Zay Flowers could go to the Packers.
For an example, would you have said George Pickens was
like the other guys? He'll be better. Mm-hmm. He's not number one.
Hold up, Shady. For example, would you say George Pickens was going to go somewhere and play?
He's always been number one. George Pickens?
Yeah, sure. But him and Zay Flowers, would you say they were drastically different at both of their spots?
I always thought
production-wise.
I always thought that George Pickens was a better receiver than Zay Flowers, and I like Zay Flowers.
Mm-hmm. I think Zay Flowers could eat in another system, though.
Thank goodness for LaShawn McCoy. Shady.
Shady's
I mean,
funny.
He is funny. And he's like, don't do this because you do this. And it is. Acho's really good at having a hot take that can never be proved or disproved. I don't know because he's always been with Lamar. I don't know because he's always been with Lamar. And I liked that Shady held his feet to the fire. Because, sorry, but part of this, and this is why I get after you sometimes, is when you're on shows like this, what you're supposed to do is project. That's what we do. You're a former NFL player. You put out film all the time. You project. So you're telling me you think that Zay or Rashad Bateman or any other number of wide receivers is hands down a number one wide receiver? Because when I look at Jamar Chase, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You put in Joe Flacco at 40 years old, you put in anybody, and they're just giddy to throw to Jamar Chase. There are so many. Tyreek Hill. I mean, you could. Larry Fitzgerald. Megatron from Detroit. There are so many people that you could say, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who the wide receiver is. And you can project. Now, maybe there can be some guys on like teetering. But I don't know that anybody's saying, oh, yeah, put Zay Flowers over with Joe Burrow, and he's suddenly a number one. And so this is the stuff that isn't fair. So all of a sudden, now Lamar's had a 4-game slump with injuries, and now, like, there's no number one wide receiver because he hasn't developed them. Get out of here with that. Like, let's analyze the games. But, I mean, and I like Zay. I'm not trying to dump on him. I like Bateman. I'm not trying to dump on him. But like, it's Lamar that didn't develop those guys. No, let's stick to the valid criticism and not these crazy hot takes.
I'll stick to this, and this relates to the roster. Lamar Jackson has had 3 number one wide receivers at his disposal over the course of the 8 years, years after they were in their prime.
Yeah.
You ready for these three?
Yeah.
The comma is important there. DeAndre Hopkins currently. Odell Beckham Jr. for a year in 23, who missed the first 6 weeks or whatever it was. And Dez Bryant for a cup of coffee during the pandemic. 3 number one wide receivers, by definition, have been at Lamar's disposal perhaps 5+ years after those respective players were considered to be bona fide number ones.
Some of them practice squad guys at the time.
It is in no it's no disrespect to Zay, to your point. It's no disrespect to Bateman. It's no disrespect to Marquise Hollywood Brown. These guys are not number one players. Number one wide receivers within the confines of an NFL offense.
Yeah, of all the receivers that he's had, when did they leave and they went on and became like this bona fide, oh man, look at him cook with that quarterback. Oh, it must have been Lamar. Like that's never happened.
Yep.
It's never happened.
Yep. So, and for those of you who haven't figured it out in the live chat, you gotta pick up. I'm supporting Shady's argument here. Hello.
Yes, I don't know how people are not picking up that you're saying he's had a number one wide receiver when they weren't number one wide receivers anymore. I guess people aren't picking up on your point here.
I should have known though. One MA is a little bit behind. That's typically standard for him. Let's go, 1 MA. Step it up, baby. Hump day. Let's go. That's my thought on
it. Somebody's asking about Steve Smith. Steve Smith, was he with Lamar in 2018?
No, I don't
Steve
think
Smith,
so.
I believe, was more with Joe Flacco. Steve Smith.
Yeah, no, I don't think there was any overlap there. But man, would I have loved to have seen those two within the same offense?
Oh, it would have been fun.
Talk about two completely different personalities, right?
Seriously.
Oh man.
They're showing his. Here we go. Steve Smith was done in 2016.
Yep.
He was not with Lamar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, a couple guys that could be on the other side of the ball for Lamar in the coming weeks returned to practice yesterday. Tavius Robinson and Ardarius Washington. So good for those guys. Now, I think, look, there's going to be probably, Sarah, a little bit more of a clear timetable for one of these two players compared to the other, both of whom have their 21-day reactivation windows now in front of them, right, to potentially be back and active for them on game day rosters. The one that has the more clear path, you would think, is Tavius Robinson, being that this was a minor foot procedure within the last couple months. As far as Ardarius is concerned, this is, you talk about, and by the way, look at his Instagram story for those of you that are watching.
No.
For the audio only folks, Ardarius, I took this from his Instagram story earlier today. He put up a photo of a lion that looks to be rising from a nap, and the caption is, "They done woke the lion up." So I hope that's the case for him. Sarah, obviously, he and Kyle Hamilton were an exceptional presence, their duo, and what they brought, stabilizing the back end of Zach Orr's defense last year. But this is a player who is just months removed from an Achilles tear. And while he has busted his butt throughout the rehab process to get himself back in the shape and even the chance to go practice, I don't know how imminent a return might be for him. And so the clearer timetable in terms of this regular season, I would think, is Tavius.
Oh, absolutely. Tavius hasn't been gone for as long. So Ardarius is going to have, I think, a much longer ramp up. Was it the first day of OTAs that he ripped his tendon, his Achilles tendon?
You know, I think it was in a
Oh, it may not even been OTAs. You mean like just the workouts is what it was. They weren't even on the field yet.
I think it was a conditioning session in May that was unrelated to like a Ravens activity, but was on site, is what I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just like looking up right now. I do remember him being on site. Okay, May 13th. You're right. May, June, July, August, September, October, November. We're about 6.5 months out. Woo! What a return for him, though. Yeah, to your point, I don't know that he's going to be able to make a huge impact. I mean, he has 3 weeks, right, before he'll be activated. I think that they'll use the entirety of the 3 weeks. And then if he is activated after that, they have the luxury of taking it slow since they have Starks and Alohi Gilman. So, but I'm so happy for him personally, just to come back 6.5 months later and have that, he was like a lion attacking the rehab process. So I'm just happy. And then this way, even if he doesn't have a major impact, he can go into the offseason saying, hey, I'm healthy. He's a free agent? Yeah.
Well, and that's what goes into the thinking, I would think, from his agency representation standpoint. Correct. Like, he is not guaranteed to be on this roster next year. And if I'm Ardarius, he may not want this to happen, but I want my representation to see the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's not absolutely beyond ready to get back on the football field for what could just be a couple games, particularly if they don't end up being a playoff team, which, hey, the analytics say that they will, and obviously a lot rides on this weekend and winning the AFC North. But the last thing you want to do if you're Ardarius from a big picture standpoint is put poor tape out there going into what will be, an uncertain offseason as it is. And Sarah, remember, they made a tender decision on him back in March, and a lot of that was related to, I'm sure, what they felt like the market would dictate for him. And as a former undrafted rookie, while he was tremendous for them last year, he's not going to be a coveted piece in free agency.
No, and I hear what you're saying. You don't want to put bad tape on there, but you do want tape, because at least, how do I know you're healthy? So at least I think teams can be like, okay, you weren't great, but at least you were back and you are healthy going into the offseason. Like, we don't have to worry about like a major rehab process. But nonetheless, very, very happy for him and impressed by him. Always impressed by Ardarius and his fire and his fight. But yeah, I agree with what you said on Tavius. I heard Jeff last night say he wouldn't be surprised if he was already back for the Steelers game, that he would be activated after just 1 week of practice. And so we'll see with that. Usually these guys take up the full 3 weeks, but I don't have as good of a feel for what his injury is like the way Jeff does. He's in there every single day. So, I mean, listen, when he left, I believe Tavius was out snapping everybody at the outside linebacker position. And while he isn't a big sack getter, he definitely is an edge setter, and he's more sound tackling. So the Ravens could absolutely use him if he were ready this Sunday or after. I'm not trying to push him. I was just a little bit surprised myself when Jeff was like, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if he was ready for the Steelers. I'm like, okay, guess we'll watch out for that.
Yeah, and the specific messaging on that, I believe, was something along the lines of when he went down, the game that was circled,
Steelers.
Maybe, was this weekend. So that's kind of what you were getting at, but that's exactly what Jeff said last night. As our quick hits continue here, just some roster construction moves from yesterday as it relates to Pittsburgh. Adam Thielen was released by Minnesota earlier this week, so Pittsburgh claimed him off waivers. He is a two-time Pro Bowl wide receiver who has really struggled of late. The Ravens just saw him, Sarah, a few weeks ago in Minnesota, but now he's going to suit up for Pittsburgh. Don't know how much of a role he'll have. And again, he's really, really struggled. A lot of that, I'm sure, is due to the quarterback play, which has been all over the place for the Vikings over the last 13 weeks between Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy. But that is something to look out for coming up this weekend. And then another veteran is on the move out of Pittsburgh. So one is in, one is out. And Darius Slay, Sarah, who the Ravens had interest in, according to Darius himself, who said it on his podcast within the last couple of years. He and the Steelers have mutually agreed to part ways. Schefter says that he's interested in continuing to play, but will consider signing with other teams. I listened to Tomlin's entire press conference yesterday. Asante Samuel was the corresponding move. So Slay was a healthy scratch. Asante, who they had just brought in within the last few weeks, was up on game day against the Bills. And Tomlin was like, look, this wasn't a performance thing. This was, hey, we need to see what we have in Asante at this point in his career. Clearly there was something more to it because Slay's no longer a Steeler.
Right. And I haven't been watching Slay, but it doesn't sound like, I mean, you don't usually let go of players that are playing well. But I have seen people ask, like, should the Ravens consider him? And with Nate Wiggins down, who knows? I mean, if there's another injury beyond that, if that were to happen this week, maybe Darius Slay would get a phone call from Baltimore. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, because again, when a division rival is like, lets him go in December, that usually is a sign that, he's not somebody you necessarily want on the field in a do or die moment.
What, just 2 years ago, I believe, 2 years ago or so, he got on his podcast and said the Ravens were going after him pretty significantly. And then he ends up in Pittsburgh, and now he is out there for the taking. Couple practice squad moves. William Kwenku and former Steelers running back Jonathan Ward were signed to the Ravens practice squad. As Bo notes right here in his tweet, they lost, as we discussed earlier this week, linebacker Chandler Martin to an ACL injury, which is a bummer. And then, of course, Justice Hill with that neck is on an injured reserve for at least several more weeks. And Jeff said yesterday, Sarah, that in the days that led up to this decision, he saw Justice, as did many of the beat reporters, on the scene. He was happy. He was in good spirits, didn't appear to be laboring at all. And then all of a sudden pops up as with this neck. And obviously, like we both know, and this year needs no reminder as to why necks are serious with Nnamdi, but it's just an injury that gives you pause, and you take a big deep breath and you hope the best for these guys. So hopefully for Justice, he'll be able to go, because that will mean Rasheen Ali probably steps into that role, as we discussed yesterday, from a pass pro standpoint. But they will miss Justice. He's a really reliable player for them on a number of levels, and that's not just in pass protection. He's a do-it-all running back for them. That's why he's earned a couple extensions since they drafted him, all the way back in 2019.
That's right. Meanwhile, more quarterback news in the AFC North. The Browns have designated quarterback Deshaun Watson to return from PUP. So if the circus if you thought the circus couldn't get any more wild in Cleveland, you were wrong. I guess the circus can always get more wild there, because finally Shedeur Sanders has become the starter, and then Deshaun Watson is now re-entering the picture. Daniel Ufusi says Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski on opening Deshaun Watson's practice window. Stefanski said, "My focus is obviously getting him back to playing football, practicing football, which he hasn't done in over a year. So it's a good next step for him." But Stefanski wouldn't say the timeline for Watson and possibly playing in a real game. But I think they know what they have in him. I think they're still discovering Shedeur. So, but who knows what's going to happen over there in Cleveland with all these guys? Who knows? Not me.
And Shedeur right now on my timeline is being asked questions about how this is at his press conference. He's being asked questions about how Jerry Jeudy blew up on him on the sideline.
Did you see that, by the way?
I actually didn't. No.
Like, you can't hear it because it's, a game broadcast, but he's just like emphatic, and they're looking at a tablet and looking at the plays, and Jerry does not seem happy.
Look, Jerry, I'm not sure how many benefits of the doubt Jerry deserves. I'll always remember what Steve Smith Sr. had to say about him years ago. Oh, man, those two had a good beef together. This guy's coming off a Pro Bowl season, Jerry Jeudy. And I would think frustrations have to be mounting for him, because how many quarterbacks has he played for in the last couple of years? It's a carousel in Cleveland. That has to be difficult from a continuity standpoint. The familiarity side of things, the reps, it's got to be difficult. But yeah, I'll have to go check that out, because I missed it on what was a busy Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah. Okay, so Tony Dungy tweeted something that I agree with. He's criticizing the NFL for their use of replay and their policies for it. And he says the NFL continues to use replay to correct some calls, but not to correct obvious missed calls. This creates a credibility problem. When replay is used to move the spot of a ball 6 inches, or is used to see if the quarterback's knee touched the ground, but can't be used to see, and he's got a picture of this right here with tripping, and this was the Commanders versus Broncos game. He says, but can't be used to see if he was tripped, or can't be used to see if the clock is at 0 when players are pointing to the clock. It creates issues. We either need to correct all obvious missed calls, or we need to let the officials call the games on the field and live with it. I think he's right on. It's weird to me that the NFL has like a list of the types of plays that you're allowed to, challenge, or that they will replay. And instead of saying, okay, here's the list, why not just be like, wow, this is an obvious missed call. It's obvious. Who cares what the implications are? If it's an obvious misplay, jump in. Otherwise, I'm with him. Then let's all live with the referees and like real time and their naked eye, and they're going to miss stuff. That happens, but then it happens. Then we all can't complain about it. But when the replay assist comes in for like he said, something is like, oh, it's a 6-inch difference versus something that has a like the OPI against Zay Flowers or any number of things. It's like,
I just brought that up because Tony's been using his platform. This isn't the only tweet that he's been using, this whole thought process on. I mean, he's really using his platform to make an impact here. He says, when you watch NFL football all day long, you just come to the conclusion our officials don't know what pass interference is.
Yeah.
We tried making it reviewable a couple of years ago, and that didn't help. But these are monster penalties that are not called consistently at all. 9:42 p.m., November 27th. That was Thanksgiving night, right after the Zay Flowers OPI. So Tony is onto something here.
Yeah, he's definitely onto something, and like the no consistency, and he is at the bottom. The bottom of all of this is like the NFL and the officiating has a credibility problem. And when you have gambling and your partners with gambling, you know what I mean? Then like people are like, wait, they're talking about scripts. This is what the NFL wanted. Like you're leaving yourself open to all that criticism when you don't correct obvious missed calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A more quick hit from you down in the video.
Oh yeah. Mike Macdonald. He just was fun to listen to on this. It wasn't even about the Ravens. He's obviously a former Ravens defensive coordinator, but he made a good point, just like Tony Dungy did here, about when he loses respect for people when they have ideas on defense or elsewhere to beat another team.
Any great offense, defense, special teams unit in the league, and I can point to you a system that is very clear on who they want to be identity wise, and it's a very clear vision about how they want to be, and that's what you respect as a coach. You don't people that kind of just pill plays and, hey, this play's cool and this play's cool and that play's cool, and this play worked against them, but so let's run this play. This play worked against these guys. Well, you just lost my respect. All you did was just pull a play that happened to work against a certain team, and because it worked, let's just run this play. It worked. Well, you have no idea why did the play work. Okay, there's a really good chance that they just screwed it up. And guess what? They have tape too, and they're allowed to practice. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to actually work on that play over the course of, So it's like it just blows my mind that teams operate like that. This is not even answering your question, but I'm just going on a thing here because it's just like that's not how you win. That's not how you generate culture. It's not how you build systems. It's just totally against what we believe here in chasing edges. Sorry, there you go.
Mike.
That's so good.
And you do see that all the time. Like fans will be watching another game, right? And they're like, "Oh, look at that! Why don't the Ravens do that?" Or oh, "Look at that! Why doesn't?" You know what I mean? And all fan bases do it. It's not just Ravens fan bases, but it's like, yeah, well, this team doesn't have that personnel, and like there may have been a busted coverage here, or they could be this or that. And he's just like, I just love it. He's like, you just lost all my respect with that. You just lost all my respect, and this isn't even the answer to your question.
Mike slowly getting a little bit more, not that he doesn't have a personality, but showing more of his personality is awesome because he's always been, as we all know, he's always been super even keel. You used to get to his defensive coordinator press conference Thursdays, Sarah, and be like, all right, we know this guy's a wizard, but yawn.
Yeah, and he would do that on purpose. Like most coaches don't want to be quoted. And so it's like, do I need to sit here and listen to this for 10 minutes? Because I know he's not going to give me anything. I could be doing something else, Of
course. Whereas Wink Martindale would say, let me go throw up all the tabloid responses I could possibly do. Good stuff. Super chats? I mean, maybe I can say English. Jermaine Lockett gets us restarted in super chats and says, what concerns do you have with Roquan in space against Washington?
Well, it sounds
Roquan in space is something that at times has been concerning. Definitely. Against the speedier players. I was
going to say, it doesn't help when he's asked to guard. Who was the wide receiver who he had to drop back 20 yards to go and get? It was that a wide receiver for sure.
Was that Cincinnati night?
Yes.
It was Thanksgiving night. Yeah, I think that might have been Yoshivash, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you definitely need to put him, like, I don't really like any linebacker against, a speedy wide receiver. But to his point, Washington at tight end, linebackers do need to be able to match up against tight ends.
And you feel better about at least the stabilization. What now? How many game sample size that he has behind him? You feel better about that there's always going to be help behind him. But as you saw, like you just pointed out, Thanksgiving night, that was a problem. Richard says, can he get healthy being sacked every game? Meaning
Talking
Lamar.
about Lamar.
And look who's back, who inspired an entire topic today. Queon.
What's up, Dreams? Dreams just creating content over here. He says, basically what I was saying was when he didn't have receivers, they invested in receivers. Not investing in offensive line because he is mobile isn't fair because now he's not 100% and his legs can't save him. Yeah, no, I mean, they definitely, I just feel like if you are going to invest in the quarterback, you should probably invest in the offensive line around the quarterback. So if you're going to obviously you can't pay everybody everywhere all the time, but man, you want to protect your huge investment.
Juju Bean says, wait a minute, Hollywood Brown, the guy with Patrick Mahomes, the guy whose best season was with Lamar?
Right. I kind of wish LaShawn asked Acho that. He's like, how about these guys? How about Hollywood Brown? You said you don't know because he's with Lamar. Well, now he's with Patrick Mahomes. Is he a number one wide receiver? He was a number one draft pick because that's what he's trying to do with their number one draft picks, as if that's like the end-all be-all to decide who a number one wide receiver is.
Queon's back. Ronnie was brought in to protect Flacco. Linderbaum's the only first-round offensive lineman they've drafted since he's been here, I believe, which is correct. Roger Rosengarten was a second-rounder. Nightmare Kilo 84, Sarah.
He's got them all. Miles Boykin, number one receiver. Devin Duvernay, James Prochet. Where are they?
Wes Hall says, hold up. Why are they acting like this one inspired a lot of super chats. Hold up. Why are they acting like Zay didn't just have a 1,000-yard Pro Bowl season following an 860-yard rookie season? We are acting like that's poor? No, I wouldn't say poor, just not perfectly representing an NFL number one wide receiver. Richard is
and
here.
with 17 games a season, 1,000 yards is a little bit more accomplishable. Again, I don't want to take away from what Zay does, but to me, 1,000-yard season does not make you a bona fide number one wide receiver.
It's terrible that this just inevitably happens because it's a comparison game, what Lamar does have versus what he doesn't have. Zay is on track to break a lot of records if he remains a Raven when it comes to pass catchers that have come through Baltimore. So it's not to diminish anything that he's done at all. It's just simply measurables. A lot of it comes down to measurables. A lot of it comes down to everything that we know goes into a number one wideout.
I also wonder if you go back to that one more time, this is what's difficult about sports commentary. Like we say that he's not a number one wide receiver. And for some reason, at Wesley, I'd love your reaction to this. Like, then you go all the way to the other extreme and say that we said he was poor. Like, why do that? Why? That's a straw man.
I think that was about the Acho conversation. That was about their commentary versus us.
No, I think he's talking about our commentary.
Oh, well, maybe the live chat, because I know you and I have not in any way. I don't think Wes is too knowing Wes because he calls in all the time. I think this is more about the live chat, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah, here he goes. My chat was geared towards Acho, not y'all. Yeah, Wes is never.
Oh, okay, Wesley.
Wes is too reasonable. I get to know a lot of these people in the calling game, so just confirm that. But I see why you may have thought that. Richard's here.
Okay, Richard says before the show ends, should we sign Slay? #insider info. We just talked about that.
Queon's back. Lamar and a Ben Johnson offense with Giro as the run game coordinator would break records.
I've always loved the idea of having Giro back as a run game coordinator. He never would. But if we could have stayed in that era, if we could have I would love for Giro to still be the run game coordinator. I would love it.
He was.
Just don't let him have the hands on the offensive coordinator job.
Just an insane 2019 and 2020 too. Douglas and Guy Conger, thank you both for believing in what we're building. We appreciate you guys for being consistent, steady supporters of ours through Patreon. So shout out you both. Happy holiday season to you both. You can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast if you'd like to learn more about what we're offering here inside the channel. I did see that. I knew you were going to pull it up. Another former Super Bowl champ is in our live chat.
We got 2 Super Bowl champs in the live chat, and this one's poking fun at you, Bobby. Bobby, you got bangs?
Femi's been mixing it up. Now Q comes in here. Q, by the way, has been traveling his butt around, hasn't he? Because you want to know who's a part of the Chicago Bears organization right now? Kadir is continued pursuit of his NFL career. We loving watching that, Q. I know you're a proud father. Happy belated Thanksgiving to the Ismail fam.
Richard's back, and he's putting up his definition of a number 1 wide receiver. He says a number 1 gets 1.2K yards plus 10 plus touchdowns and takes 5 yard catches into the end zone.
And how about, commands double team?
Oh,
right?
Q now getting called out.
Of attention.
Q now getting called out. Q's still dodging the pink tux, and I know he's going to blame you, but there was not part of the bet that said for sure Bobby's got to get this done. Like, Q, you made the bet. You got to follow through. You can't put this on Bobby.
We can
talk about Bobby's bangs, but.
And speaking of though, that's what's got me distracted right now. I know you're going after Q. Travinci says, Bobby, what the heck is going on with your hair? Getting ready for an emo concert? Another one, Gray Red Star. Did Bobby watch a Beatles doc or something? That's hilarious. Oh, my goodness.
What's funny, though, is I know you do this just to get people riled up. This is why I partake in it.
Yeah,
and I know you're doing it on purpose.
That, and I'm going to get a haircut here shortly. So
there we go.
Why not?
You're about to look super clean.
And to be very clear, this is not something I would have been able to do prior to. I always, any chance I get, Sarah, I use this as a great excuse to mention this would not have been able to effectively been done prior to the hair transplant. And what if I told you in 41 minutes, I have a virtual consultation with the Bosley office in Orlando, because all along, there was always the plan of potentially going in for a follow-up touch-up procedure.
Right.
Because that's just how bald I was prior to the first one. I mean, it was a receding hairline and then some.
Well, you've come a long way. But here's my question. When you comb it, I'm so happy that you come a long way. Why do you have like the Dumb and Dumber haircut? Harry. We talked about Harry two days in a row. There's Harry from Home Alone, and there's Harry from Dumb and Dumber. Like, why do you do that?
Well, here's the funny thing. I don't even comb it.
Okay.
Like, I just get out of the shower, I dry it, and then I'm just like.
And it just sits that way.
Yeah. You're funny, though. Dumb and Dumber. People are going to have a good time with that one. Fia already is. Look at this.
We just got to give you a chipped tooth, and it would be complete.
Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Here it comes. Yeah. How did I know you'd set that aflame right there? Oh, yeah. You set it ablaze. Absolutely.
Look at the laughing emojis.
It's funny. I see where you're going with that. Jim Carrey, right? That's
right.
Funny. That's
sure.
Yeah, Q, you're right. She is ruthless. That's correct.
Let's just pull it up for fun.
Oh yeah, let's just pull it up.
I mean, it is 1:20, and I do got to get out. I do got to get out of here because I know what you do.
Pull it up. Pull it up.
Oh wait, it's not Harry. It's Lloyd. It's Lloyd. How did I get my Dumb and Dumber?
Here comes anybody who finds themselves laughing right now, okay, you're not safe in my mind. No one laughing right now. Okay.
Listen, again, I'm only look at
yeah, zoom in on that mofo. Unbelievable. Look at this. Yeah.
Come on, comb your hair. Just take this part down a little bit so we can get the effect, and we'll get you a chipped tooth.
Sarah.
And that's it.
That is a much straighter hairline. Okay.
Okay, but all you gotta do is just on my left, maybe your right. Just pull it down a little bit. Just give it to us.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll zoom in so I can look at it. I'll give you a shot right now.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let's do it. Good. There we go. Yeah. Not so much the middle. There you go. There.
Again, here's the funny thing. You guys think this is funny, right? And I'm glad you do. But here's why I think it's funny that you guys think it's funny. I'm pumped that I could even do this.
I know.
And you guys think you're laughing at my expense, which maybe you are. I'm happy about it. I am happy that I can do this because it wasn't all that long ago that there was no hide. The only way to hide what was happening up here, Sarah, was with a hat or our audio only podcast. That was the only way that you could possibly get around my significant hair loss from just 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years in March. So anyway, 2:00, Bosley virtual consultation, and perhaps an off-season touch-up procedure. We'll see.
Listen, all I'm saying is that you look good on the days that you do your hair. I think you've come. Yeah. I'm pumped for you too. By the way, you can make fun of my hair. We can make fun of my hair. So if we want to make it even.
Yeah. How are we going to do that? Olu says, dang it, Sarah, Dumb and Dumber, you are hilarious. Richard's got laughy emojis coming in all over the place. And Rave says, just go to a black barber, please. I used to have a black barber shop in Baltimore that I enjoyed going to. I was the only white guy in there. I loved it. They treated me well.
Do we have any pictures from that? Like, was there anything, special?
Well, you want to know what it was? It was pre-hair transplant, and I walked out of there with like ice picks and things that probably didn't fit my style.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of had to be like, you know what? It was a Dominican barber shop. I think I needed to kind of move on to the next spot and not go to a salon, but find a happy medium.
I can't read the chat. I can't read the chat.
Bobby's too hotty for the win, baby. Olu, baby. Hey, Olu is a Mississippi man. Olu, remind me, is it Mississippi or Alabama? Did I get you're somewhere down there in college football heaven? And Olu called in within the last couple of weeks, Sarah. It was great to get to know him personally. He was an awesome call. But yeah, I think it's Ole Miss, right? Are you an Ole Miss guy?
Ole Miss?
I think he is. Which talk about what a couple weeks, what a couple months it's been for Ole Miss football. But anyway,
all right,
shall we?
Yeah, let's get out of here.
All right, Louisiana. Okay, excuse me, I got all that wrong. It was not Alabama. It was not Ole Miss. It was Louisiana, home of the Tigers. All right, guys, appreciate you as always for all the support and the love. Oh wait, now he's saying Bama. Which one?
Yeah, I got confused by that too.
Huh. Well, anyway, you and I will catch up soon, Olu. Tavius Robinson's back at practice as we expected he would be after he popped up on the Ravens site as a participant yesterday. Ravens have some video going out, so go check that out.
Oh, wait, where's the video of Lamar? I want to see Lamar out there.
I don't know. You might have to keep holding your breath on that one.
It's going to come down the pike sometime soon.
We'll see. He's been known to make his dramatic entrances, right? So, anyway. All right, guys. Appreciate you as always. Live chat, never change. Sarah, never change. My hair, subject to change. Catch up with you guys tomorrow for a Thursday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. Sarah, our friend Brooke Pryor will be back with us at 12:30.
Oh, Bobby, hold on. Sorry. I know you're doing the countdown. Sorry. Cordell Woodland, friend of the show, beat reporter, confirmed that Lamar is scheduled to speak today, which usually means he'll be practicing.
I did see that earlier on, which would suggest it. Yep.
Okay, sorry. I interrupted your beautiful outro.
Nope.
Go ahead, my friend.
Didn't have anything really left other than saying goodbye to you guys and appreciate you. And we will catch up with you tomorrow. Brooke joins us at 12:30. We'll continue to get ready for Week 14. Post-game coverage, as always, 5 o'clock once the press conferences finish up on Sunday. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Wednesdays. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off. Go check out the merch line at thevaultpod.com/shop. We'll catch up with you in under 24 hours from now right here inside the Vault.